Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wicked Art. It's Wicked here, and today we're going to talk about drawing rocks. Now, you might be asking, what rocks, really? Well, depending on what you're trying to do in your scene, doing comic books, or you're drawing an overall scene, sometimes the environment can help you sell what it is that you're doing. So when it comes to drawing rocks, knowing how to shade or, get um, the right depth and stuff like that can help you really help sell the scene. So I'm going to show you how to draw some basic rocks and then show you why those foundations can help you grow into drawing more interesting rocks, right? So let's just start with a basic shape, right? We're just going to have rock number one here. And this is just a rock that's just sitting on the ground. It's nothing special, just its own little kind of shape, doing its own thing, just sitting there, right? So go ahead and kind of sketch that out. Maybe have a slight crack right there to just kind of show a change in shape. Okay, so now that I have that in there, I can kind of finalize my lines a little bit. Okay, and now that it's set up, the key part is, like I said, is going to be that shading, right? So I can come in here and I can just kind of hatch in, and you can shade this however you want, but I'm just going to hatch in some lines there. And some lines there. And another good thing to do is you can look up rocks. Like, seriously, just look up references of rocks and see how they're shaped, right? And we could do something as simple as, maybe these are smoother rocks, right? So I can draw and sketch out a nice little rounded boulder shape. And then just right inside here, giving it some dimension. I can add another shape in here. So let's go ahead and we'll solidify our shape. And then again, just depending on where the light is hitting, we can come in here and we can kind of just hatch in the shape of our rock. So again, it can come in all different shapes and sizes. Um, then we can start working our way up to more complex rocks, like maybe a more of a river rock um, look, like the rocks that you would find along the river, maybe like a cliffside, um, things of that nature. And we can take that in. Okay, and then once I have that shape built up, you can start increasing the rock's complexity by its shading, right? So like I can come in here and we can shade to this part, right? Now what if I wanted to change its edge? Okay, I want to come in here and I'm going to shade the rest of it without touching in this white gap, right? So having that is now giving me a look of like this part juts out further, right? And then something as simple as shading on this side, but just stopping shy of the edge can have the same effect. Okay. So now I have a set here, and I can just kind of erase out the lines on which they're touching. Do the same thing right down in here. Right? And now it has a different shape to it. Okay. Again, sticking with that complexity. And what we're going to do is we're just going to call this just basic rocks, right? So we're going to do one more basic rock. Let's come in here and let's start coming up with a good silhouette. Now, a silhouette is essentially the outline. So if you've ever just tried to draw a box or something like that, the silhouette is just the outline that you're doing with that. Now, I'm going to try to get my camera to focus. Sorry about that. Okay. So now that I have that in there, what we can do is we can start breaking up into sections, right? So I can think I want a flat layer in here, right? Maybe come out this way and have the rest of that kind of come out and fall off. And then maybe we can come right back up and go to the edge like that there. Okay. So now that I have all that stuff built in, I can now start, let's clean that up just a little bit. Let's kind of make that right. So all this area in here, I'm going to go ahead, we're going to kind of darken our edge just so you can see it better. And again, you can shade these rocks, shaded areas however you want. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to kind of hatch this in. Again, you can color it in, you can make it jet black, just depends on the style you're going for. Okay. And I'm losing the focus again. Hold on. Not sure what's up with my camera today. Come on. Work with me here. Sorry about this, y'all. I don't understand why it has to automatically adjust to every single thing that I do. I mean, I'm barely touching the paper and it's doing that. Come on. Stick with me here. There we go. Okay, so I can fill that in. And out here on the edge, it's going to bring that out some more. So again, now we have a multi-surfaced rock, okay? So now we can take what we just learned about those rocks and we start to get creative, right? So now let's get to stylized rocks, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is let's get a little bit more in depth, right? So now I can really start getting into these creases and building up the edges, however I deem them necessary to look. That might be too much of an angle. Okay, I'm going to go out this way. I could just angle that out. Again, this allows you to be a little bit more creative. This is like more of a freestanding form, something that you could just find out in a fantasy world or setting. We're going to kind of split down this way. So you can see I'm starting to build up different layers. Let's put like a small little kind of boulder shape. You know, something for it to rest on down here at the bottom. And then I can come down this backside over here. Kind of do the same thing and split it out. Like that. And then we can kind of have this. Round out to that spot, and then we can have another part that's holding it. Like that, right? So now I can just simply come in here. Again, I can just kind of hatch it in. And all that's done to do is just give you some dimension and, again, depth to what you have going on here. Just kind of hatch that in there. And this is a completely separate surface, which means it's going to get more light exposed to it. I can come down here. You can see how that's helped me build up my shape, right? And just get this last little edge right in here, okay? So now we've gone from a basic standard rock to more of a stylized look, right? So again, we can come in here, we can make another, kind of sticking with the same theme here. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of build up the top surface first. And we can kind of have that come out. Maybe a slight curve to it there. And just connect that off. And again, I can go with whatever shape that I'm trying to go for. There's no set necessary rule when you're doing more of a stylized, but you're kind of using those same features of adding in different flat edges and things to it. So we're going to kind of come in. And again, your best case study is honestly just going to be, you know, not just the advice I'm giving you here, but like seriously go out and look. Not necessarily out. I mean, if you're kind of limited to your house, you know, then just look up on the computer or Google. Just look up rocks, right? You can look up desert rocks, mesas, whatever, and it'll help you kind of build this out. So again, I can kind of come out and just keep building more onto the structures, giving it some layer to it, right? We can come down here and maybe build out another shape. Kind of conforms to the rock itself. We can turn the shape that way. Okay, so I'm starting just to make it look interesting. I am basically just adding little details like what would support this rock, right? It needs things to hold it up for it to be balanced like that. So these other little boulders can kind of be helping with that. Right? And again, once all those things are in place, I can get my sides that are away from the sunlight. And I can build those in with some shadow. Again, you can go as detailed as you want. If you're doing like comic book and you're doing like the inking thing, I mean, you can really go in here and darken up some of those areas. But you can see how just by doing that, it's completely exposed that outer portion. Which is helping highlight that that's a completely different surface facing away. And like this is more under, so we get some shading in there. This part is exposed but blocked off by these other rocks, so I'm adding in shadows over here as well. Again, just kind of helping me shape and give your eye a chance to understand which direction things are going and how much sun hits different things. The nice part about being stylized is it's pretty much free reign for you to design how you want. Because, like I said, when I usually do my shading, I usually go with what looks cool as opposed to what's 100% accurate. That way, people can still read and actually tell, you know, what it is that we're looking at, right? So, even if you wanted to go, more simplistic, where it's not like almost like kind of like what we did here, right? We can still do that same kind of shaping to it, but maybe cut through and add a few more little cracks to kind of help sell it, kind of curve it around. And then we can do that same kind of deal, right? We have another one going right there in front of it. So we can do the same thing. Put another tiny little boulder down in here, maybe. Give it a slight surface there. But again, we can give it a really hard, defined shape change. And bring that down this way. And see how that's kind of given us a different look. And then maybe I can come up just this inside edge here. To show that it's kind of flattened on top here. And we just do the same thing. Right? So you can see how that's kind of built us up a nice little set, right? So we've gone from basic to a stylized, which then can lead you into fantasy slash sci-fi, whatever you want to categorize it in, right? So most typical fantasies, there's you're looking out at the landscape and you see kind of like these big major almost arching shapes. Right, so we can kind of get a little carried away. With how we're shaping and making things look. Right? So I have myself a stone here, correct? And what we can do is we can start getting crazier with it, right? Put some really deep stone working cracks and differences and changes to help us change and shape the rock, right? So I can come over here and we can put another split that kind of runs down here at the bottom. Maybe thicken it up just a little bit, right? I can come over here and we can kind of add in another dramatic change. Just kind of run that over and through, keeping that downside. Maybe we'll just run another crack up this way. Okay, and put some other simple splits in here just to kind of change the dimensions of your rock. Right, and then I can kind of just come in and start shading those changes where there's the splits and the cracks where the sunlight's not going to reach. Just kind of go in there. And fill those in, right? So like that's one type of a fantasy art that we could do. Um, you could start getting into more of elongated, weird shapes, things that just probably wouldn't exist. Not that you couldn't find any. I mean, there's always places that surprise me here on our planet Earth that are a little bit more on the strange side. Especially when you go deep diving into these rocks, you could type in like fantasy rocks on Earth, and you'll find some really crazy, uh, things that exist out in nature that you're just kind of like, how in the world did those form that way? But that's half the fun of doing this study. Is it just kind of goes to show you, what you're able to actually accomplish when you do a little bit of research. I'll put a crack right there. But yeah, you just do a little bit of research and find out for yourself. What's going on in the world and just how unique and crazy this planet can be. As you can see, like this is more of an erect, freestanding stone. It's maybe got like this other little tiny one that's just right in front of it. The edges are all kind of warped and not necessarily standing in a way that would be conducive of it actually being able to stand on its own. But because you're kind of free playing and letting it go, it falls more in the realm of fantasy and things like that, right? Again, we're just kind of focusing on rocks, right? And then you could kind of get into more of, maybe ones that have like a weird thing to it, like for no apparent reason whatsoever. It's just got this shape, but you're just kind of letting it go. So this has got a crazy little hole in it, right? Basic C shape. And we can kind of put a crack right in here. Maybe split the edge here and kind of curve down. Right. Same thing down here. We can add tiny edge in there. Maybe a crack here. Kind of split off. Right here. Okay, then I can just kind of come in and shade that underside. Right, like why this rock exists or if it even would is not what's up for like debate. It's can can you make it convincing enough that if it was in the scene, people would look at it and go, "Wow, man, it's cool." You imagine running out and to the real world and seeing that crazy pile of stones right there. Right, so I just have another stone here, and then maybe it's being balanced by this other piece on the other side. So let's kind of shade that in there, just along the bottom. Right. So again, these are all options um, and things you could do. That's why I'm stressing could. But just start with the basics. Look up some rocks and start seeing how they form and shape, like where cracks low. And you can start getting super creative and start going crazy, right? So that's going to do it for our Monday art lesson on how to draw rocks. Let me know down in the comments what you think or what else you want to learn or know. I would greatly appreciate that as it helps me guide the channel to what you want to see. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful day. If you're new to the channel and you like what you saw, go ahead and subscribe. I got tons of videos. Go ahead and check them out. I love getting more students. Other than that, y'all have a fantastic day. Remember to keep on sketching, and I will see you in the next one. All right? Bye.